To your right, just right around the corner by that conference room, what we call conference room A. With that, that concludes my safety briefing.
Thank you very much. A few ground rules before we get started here. First and foremost, please silence your electronic devices. This regular board meeting will follow the agenda made available to the public upon entering this meeting. This meeting is streaming live on the internet at OPPD.com. Our regular board meetings have public comments periods on the agenda. Following board discussion on each pending matter, I will ask for a public comment before bringing the matter to a vote. Also, prior to adjournment of the meeting, you'll have an opportunity to comment on any other OPPD matters as well. If you wish to speak, please approach the microphone to your far left and state your name and address and state the name of any organization or person you may be representing. Organizations should choose one representative to speak on their behalf so as to avoid repetitive commentary. Comments made by all parties during the meeting are a part of the official public record. Each individual will be allotted 3 minutes per matter pending at the discretion of the board. To assist you, we use a red, yellow, green light indicator to ensure each member of the public receives a consistent amount of time. Ms. Labs will signal you when 30 seconds remain, as well as when time is up. Please direct your comments to me, not to other board members or the executive team. I will either respond to you directly or defer response to another board member or officer of the district. If you brought written materials, Ms. Labs will receive them on our behalf. Christy, will you please call the roll?
Barrett?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Here.
Gay?
Here.
McGuire? Here. Mines?
Here.
Moody?
Here.
Trinan?
Here.
Yoder?
Here.
Agenda item 4, announcement regarding public notice of meeting. Notice of the time and place of this meeting was publicized by notifying the area news media, by publicizing same in the Omaha World Herald and outlets, by displaying such notice on the arcade level of Energy Plaza since December 7, 2018, and by mailing such notice to each of the district's directors on that same date. A copy of the proposed agenda for this meeting has been maintained on a current basis and is readily available for public inspection in the office of the district's corporate secretary. Additionally, a copy of the open meetings law is available for inspection in the public meeting book located in this meeting room. Board consent action items. The consent agenda items are as follows. Item 5, approval of the October 2018 comprehensive financial and operating reports, November 15, 2018 board meeting minutes, and the December 13, 2018 agenda. Item 6, declaration of the anticipated 2019 capital expenditures reimbursement, resolution number 6293. Item 7, SD11 Economic Development Monitoring Report, Resolution number 6294. Item 8, Award Spring 2019 Transmission Construction Contract, Resolution number 6295. Item 9, 2019 345 kV Power Circuit Breaker Multi-Year Contract, Resolution number 6296. Item 10, 161 kV Foundation Ducts and Grounding, Resolution number 6297. Item 11, SD4 Reliability Monitoring Report, Resolution number 6298. Item 12, Amended and Restated Interlocal Cooperation Agreement, Resolution number 6299. If there are no corrections, changes, or additions to these items, I need a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda items.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Point of clarification. Why is it October 2018 and not, oh, I see, never mind. Approval of the October comprehensive.
Yep.
Gotcha. And not November,
Okay.
because it rolls out in October.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There's a lag thing.
Yep.
Yeah, a month and a half lag. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do any other directors have any comments on these consent items? Seeing none, do any members of the public wish to comment on these consent items 5 through 12? Seeing none, Christie?
Barrett?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Gay?
Yes.
McGuire? Yes. Mines?
Yes.
Moody?
Yes.
Trinan?
Yes.
Yoder?
Yes.
Motion carried. Agenda item 13, amend rate 350 municipal service street lighting, resolution number 6300. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Omaha Public Power District that the revisions to the district's rate schedule number 350 municipal service street lighting as set forth on the attached Exhibit A, B, and hereby are approved.
So move.
Motion, we have a second?
Second.
Yeah?
Okay. Schedule 350 municipal service street lighting is going to be amended because of the addition of LED street lights, which are we going to start to
Thank you, Director McGuire. I'm Todd McLaughlin, Manager of Utilities and Right-of-Way Coordination here at Omaha Public Power District. The methodology for the LED replacements is OPPD will be going out and addressing 3 different segments of streetlight categories. We do have some that are within that are called in by customers. As those calls come in, they're entered through the app or through OPPD.com. OPPD will go ahead and make that replacement rather than changing out the streetlight bulb or photocell. We will go ahead and change out the entire fixture with an LED fixture. We also have a group that we will go through on the major thoroughfares and make those replacements following an inspection that OPPD performs themselves. Then we also have a category of rural replacements that we'll be going through to make those changes as those towns and villages within the rural districts as the existing high pressure sodium expires, we'll go out and make those changes as necessary.
Go ahead.
We also concerning the benefits not only to OPPD but also to our customer owners, OPPD will be investing about $39 million in additional capital to make this conversion over the next 5 years. That amount of expenditure into the capital has been will already be worked into what the new LED rate structure is. So OPPD will regain that expenditure through amortized over a number of years. The rate itself, which is what the streetlight customers in municipalities and cities will experience, is around 25% a year following the 5-year conversion. So they'll have a rate reduction of about 25% on average. So there is a very significant benefit to all of our municipal customers, and those customers, in turn, their ratepayer taxpayers are the same ratepayers that OPPD currently has.
Great. Any other questions?
Yeah, just a couple quick ones. Todd, taking that point a little bit further, we talked on Tuesday about the net present value to our customers being, I think, $77 million over 20 years. I don't know if that's exactly the right number, but it's rather substantial. But there's also a net present value advantage to the company, to OPPD as well, as a result of reduced maintenance, so on and so forth. Do you recall, or what's the net present value number to us that we're expecting over 20 years?
Yes, Director Moody, the $39 million that OPPD is going to expend, we're recouping that over a period of time through the rate itself. Mm-hmm. So OPPD doesn't perform work in a pursuit of profit. We're performing this work at cost, and that cost is passed on to our customers. So OPPD is not benefiting or losing any kind of revenue, or we're not incurring any additional expenses directly because of this project.
Okay.
The real benefits of this project is what in turn we're providing to our customer owners. We're increasing the value through environmental improvements, reliability, and of course a more affordable rate structure for our municipal customers or streetlight customers. So they'll recognize that savings. OPPD is neither gaining nor losing any kind of funds. But $77.5 million was the correct net present value.
Todd, I have a question. Hey, there was a state legislator from Omaha who I read something on Facebook, and he sounded like that he said, why does OPPD own, operate, and maintain the streetlights in the city of Omaha? And I guess that goes out to other municipalities. What are the advantages of OPPD, and why do they do it?
Thanks. Thank you, Director Barrett. It's a service that we provide to our to our cities and municipalities. Providing that type of infrastructure, OPPD has the expertise to maintain the equipment in place. We operate the electrical system, so rather than providing a service point, it's a strategic advantage as we start moving forward into more of a 5G and a Internet of Things type environment. We also have some smart grid benefits that we want to have that type of property available to us at real estate so we can start installing some of our own facilities to operate our system.
Okay, and that was my feeling, was that we've got the expertise, we own the electrical grid, and we're the natural fit for it, as opposed to another party.
Well, Director Barrett, since I engaged on that Facebook post yesterday, I probably should share what I said. That was me, by the way. And so what I said in that regard is that, you know, OPPD, as we have looked at our streetlight rate compared to many in the Midwest region, we're very economical. And I think, I know when we were working with the city of Omaha, they certainly saw the difference between us in Chicago and Des Moines and Kansas City and Minneapolis. And so very economical, very low cost streetlight rates. And as we began to look at service and replacement and repair, our service was, you know, in that highest category as we were doing some of the review on that. And so my response to the center in Omaha was, you know, one, because of low cost, two, because of just exceptional service is the reason why we continue to be the streetlight installers, maintainers across our region. So I thought I just better become transparent in my response back. And I had some wonderful response back from multiple folks that actually raised some concerns and issues. And our team is addressing those as we speak. So appreciate our operating folks for getting on some of those issues right away. So,
Are there any municipalities in our jurisdiction that own their own streetlights?
We have a variety. The city of Omaha owns a lot of their own streetlights, although they don't own the entire system. The city of Ashland has a number of lights throughout their downtown area. La Vista does as well, Papillion. So OPPD doesn't own and operate the entire system, although many of those municipalities do come to OPPD for a maintenance type agreement. Because we do have that expertise, so although they do own their own facilities, they do ask that we maintain them because we have the infrastructure, we have the processes in place to efficiently address those issues.
I haven't driven through the area in a while, but some of our older areas like the Morton Meadows area, and I presume probably the Dundee area, had those older globe type lights. And then we also added the more modern type units here in the last 15, 20 years. But we kind of had some duplication there for a while, I guess. Do we still have the duplicate lights in some of these neighborhoods, or have we converted to the more modern type of things, you know?
So Morton Meadow, we have converted to LED lights, if I'm not mistaken, in an early pilot project. We did some testing of that. We work with some parts of the city that want to maintain certain kind of decorative lighting that may be separate from what we would offer. And of course, when we look at our lights, we're looking at sturability, replacement, longevity. Sometimes that always doesn't happen if they're buying the newest and greatest look for that year. But if the city wants to do that, they have the capability, or cities or municipalities want to do that, they could have a different style. We just may not provide the replacement or the service, or if we do, it's on a time and material basis just to get our costs recovered in that regard.
The string of pearls along Abbott Drive, and it's been in the news here this last week that the financing to maintain that boulevard there is changing. Does the city own those string of pearls, or do we own those, or is that was it Kiewit, or there was a sponsor, I believe? But do you know if there are? Because I know there was issues with the damage during the hailstorms and stuff a couple different times.
Yes, Director Kavanaugh. The city of Omaha does own the string of pearls. OPPD is under a maintenance agreement, so we do time and material, as Mr. Burke had mentioned. And the cities and municipalities, when they do own their own facilities, as does the Department of Transportation, it's always at their discretion whether or not they would like to maintain those facilities through their own means.
Okay, thanks.
Quick question. As I've been A few questions that I've received relate to light pollution. The vast majority of our lights are the Cobra heads, which are pushing the light directly down, so that's not much of an issue. But I think a lot of what Director Kavanaugh has mentioned, some of the more decorative have light that goes up. But help me understand what our role is in helping different cities and municipalities when they're selecting different light fixtures, particularly as it relates to light pollution. Because I know that we own some, right? And some of those decorative fixtures are ones that are sort of on our list of options. But just help me understand what our role is as it relates to helping municipalities choose which fixtures they're going to put in.
Thanks, Director Moody. So when a municipality asks us to provide lighting to an area, we'll go and do a lighting study, draw out contours of what the light levels would be at various areas, which includes any kind of backlight that's coming off of those facilities. We do have a number of different options to control backlight, to control light pollution. A lot of the times it's more the decorative lights that cause those types of issues. So we do have some shielding that we can use, as well as a number of different options, raising and lowering the wattage on the lights, or replacing it with a less intense light or more focused.
Okay, thank you.
I know you're most intent on seeing the comet this weekend, and you should come down to my district, south of the river, and good place to look for it. Mr. McLaughlin, during Tuesday's meeting, and again referenced tonight, there's a 25% overall savings for the customers of the lights. That's what I think I heard you say.
Yes.
What I didn't see in the rate, and I think it will be attached to this for public viewing, is any kind of difference. It's a new rate, so that wouldn't necessarily be part of what we would put up there. But are there any line items or any customers who will have to pay more, won't experience that 25% savings?
Director Yoder, there will not be anyone with an increase. If there is a potential of an increase, we would leave that option up to the particular municipality to make that decision if they do want to convert. The lights that we have available right now, none of them went up. In fact, 22.5% reduction was the lowest of all of those fixture options. As we move forward, we'll evaluate some of the more decorative lights, and if there is one that is excessively expensive as a replacement, we'll leave that decision to the municipality, because we don't want to adversely affect rates either. And the decorative lights, a lot of the time, the coloring of the light itself is part of the ambiance of it.
Thank you very much.
And just to put some context around that, I mean, that's the reason why, this is, I know you don't like me to use the pace of value, but this is where the pace of value really has occurred. And so these same lights that we were looking at multiple years ago, maybe 9 or 10 years ago, started up in the $400 to $500 range and are now down to a much lower price, $100 or less price. And so it really is now matching kind of the technological changes that have occurred. And so it's the right time for us to do that, to give the benefit to the customers. If we did it before then, at the $400 or $500 per fixture, it would have been an increase to the municipality. So we were sensitive to that, but we understood that technology was going to be coming down. We just had to be patient and wait, and then be able to, essentially execute when it made sense for not just the municipalities, but for us as well.
Thank you for that. I think that's great, and I'm not going to rebut you and say we should be the first in any of these things, but I would merely point out that the way technology moves out is that when early adopters or earlier adopters do choose to weigh in, they help bring down the price of the technology for the future and for others. So, nope, I'm not arguing. Good timing, good decision. I'm in favor of the resolution.
The other advantage that hasn't been mentioned is that there's going to be fewer streetlight outages. One of my main contacts that I get from all my customer owners is that the streetlight's out. And with the exception of a car hitting it or something like that, there's going to be fewer outages for everybody. But I still think now's the time that we need to talk to and sort of spread the word of how you can use the OPPD Connect app, that they do have the streetlight outage thing, that you can report a streetlight outage. And the advantage is, if you have a streetlight out, you're going to get a new one of these instead. So be nice to get it out there.
Okay. Do any other directors have any comments? Seeing none, do any members of the public care to comment on this item?
Janice Malhoff, Ashland. In January this year, these two gentlemen came out to Ashland and they talked to our mayor, our city administrator about this program. We were very excited. We've been waiting a little bit impatiently probably for this to roll out, and I just commend these guys on the board and for your action and appreciate it. And this means a lot to small municipalities like mine, but also to the county and the state. So this decision will help all of the taxpayers of Nebraska, basically. So thank you for that.
Okay, Chrissy, care to call the roll?
Barrett,
Yes.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Gay,
Yes.
McGuire,
Yes.
Mines,
Yes.
Moody,
Yes.
Trinan,
Yes.
Yoder,
Yes.
motion carried. Agenda item 14, corporate operating plan, resolution number 6301. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Omaha Public Power District that the 2019 corporate operating plan is hereby approved.
Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, Mick?
Actually, it's supposed to be mine, but that's okay. They put it.
Okay, I'll introduce Javier.
Actually, it was supposed to be.
What is it?
Fusion.
How big is it? How tall is it?
There's some
Does it
confusion.
hurt?
Actually, it's
No
supposed to be-
coasting yet, finish strong.
Does it hurt?
feel like I'm too high.
You are.
Like an NBA player.
Yeah.
I do feel like an
You could go down a step.
I'm not that good. I was trying, but I'm gonna play it safe, so I'll just stay here.
He's not gonna disconnect anything.
I
yeah.
do not want to do that.
My age will be.
Well, thank you everyone for having me. What is it? It's the result of a lot of really hard work. 1,800 people put in a ton of work into presenting this operating plan, corporate operating plan. I would like to thank all the vice presidents that are sitting here with me and Tim Burke, but really it's all the people who are out there doing a lot of work day in and day out who are helping us present this budget to you, which in my opinion is a fantastic piece of work that supports our commitment to affordability, to SZ2. It continues to confirm our commitment to a 5-year no general rate increase. This would be our 3rd year in a row, 3 out of 5 years of a no general rate increase. It continues to support our sustainability and reliability, customer satisfaction. So I believe that this COP, this corporate operating plan, is coming together in a really nice way to support this. Let me just walk you through. I presented this corporate operating plan in more detail last month at the committee meeting. In the interest of time, I'm going to present to you the changes. What has changed from the draft COP to this COP, and we posted for comment in November. We have made a few changes. Probably the most notable change is tied directly to reliability. Troy Vai, leading the Energy Delivery Business Unit, and his team presented to us a very compelling case with using a lot of data and analytics, trying to correlate outages, reliability with investment. And specifically in this case, it's investment in tree trimming or vegetation management. And it was relatively easy for us to figure out that there is a very clear correlation between those two. We have been investing in tree trimming for many, many years, but we know that the draft COP for 2019 already included a $1 million increase from the previous year on tree trimming. The final COP includes an additional $1 million. So for the 2019 COP, we're looking at increasing the tree trimming budget over 2018 budgets by $2 million. And this is truly in an attempt to increase reliability. Having fewer trees, fewer branches touching lines will help significantly whenever we have storms. And as a newer Nebraska resident, I can tell you that we do have storms, lots of them. So cutting down trees or trimming them to the level, it's not cutting them down completely, but really trimming them so that the branches are away from lines, will have a direct impact on reliability. Something that we may not necessarily see right away, but through time, we should be able to get to more trees in a more frequent basis, and therefore increasing our reliability. So that's a big change in our corporate operating plan. I'm proud to say that we can support that and still fit it within the budget. A few other, what I would call minor adjustments. When we presented the draft corporate operating plan in November, those numbers were prepared in October, which included final numbers as of September. So it's already outdated. So what we did for the final corporate operating plan is we took actual numbers for 2018 for October and November, and we're trying to reflect a more accurate picture of where we're going in the year. So we did adjust it for off-system sales revenues, adjustments from capital to O&M, things that I reported at the board committee meeting in October, and they reduced projected capital spend. All of those items are now more updated, and they are reflected in the final COP. Nothing relevant enough for me to touch on, but it's important for me to tell you that we have made adjustments just with better information we have today. In a nutshell, this is where all the money is going to go in 2019, at least on a budget basis. $1,177 million, almost $178 million. The majority of it is going to our non-fuel operating and maintenance dollars. That's the green slide that you have, the slice at the bottom of the pie, followed by fuel and purchase power expenses. We do have $129 million, almost $130 million on debt service and other expenses. I want to note that this number went down from last year and from the year before. We have not issued any new debt, net new debt to our portfolio for 3 years in a row, and we have continued to pay down existing debt and refinance existing debt. So that number has continued to decline. Very proud of that, something that our teams continue to look into. Payments in lieu of taxes continue to be pretty flat. This is approximately the same number that we paid in 2018 that we're looking at paying out in 2019. Our capital expenditure budget is increasing from approximately $140 million in 2018 to $200 million in 2019. Lots of major, very important projects, capital projects. We have a few planned outages in some of our generating plants. We don't have those every year, so whenever we have them, they're typically a little larger. And because it costs a lot of money to put have a plant go down for a lot of these capital projects. So we try to consolidate that work in 1 year. We have a few transmission projects. You have been talking about those, some of the Sarpy County transmission line projects that you have been authorizing recently. A lot of that work will take place in 2019. And then there are a few others on decommissioning and benefits reserve account. We are planning to continue to make deposits into the decommissioning and benefits reserve account. In fact, I'm going to make a little pause here. For 2018, we're looking at making yet another deposit into that account. I don't have the final number yet because the year hasn't finished, but I expect that in January or February we'll come back to the board and propose another deposit into the decommissioning and benefits reserve account. If you remember, that is an account that was funded for the first time last year. Mm-hmm. And it's basically giving the board the option of using those funds to either fund decommissioning work if needed, or once the decommissioning work continues to progress and the risk goes down on funding, use it for benefits to fund our pension plan. So we're likely going to make another deposit this year, and the budget includes a $12 million deposit into the decommissioning and benefits reserve account. This is interesting. Director Trainum noted in November, we are also looking at increasing our interest earnings. Interest rates have gone up, and we have deposits in banks and securities, and our interest earnings are going up. They're going up about $15 million. I consider those as temporary, because just as interest rates go up, they can also go down. So having that variable source of revenue going up and having a somewhat variable uses of funds on the decommissioning and benefits reserve gives me that ability to say if those revenues continue to materialize, we may be able to fund decommissioning and benefits reserve. If they don't, that's the one bucket that will probably not get funded as much. So it's variable to variable. Mm-hmm. It's a good match. Regulatory amortization of debt. This is part of our, I believe it's Fort Calhoun, part of the regulatory amortization of Fort Calhoun investments we had in the past. And the next one is really the decommissioning disbursements. Let me make a pause here. This is not the amount of money that we're putting in the decommissioning trust fund. We're looking at depositing about $24 million more than that amount into the decommissioning trust fund. This is the amount of disbursements we're expecting. So, in other words, we are depositing more than what we are expensing on the decommissioning fund.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's where people have gotten confused, I think. So the decommissioning fund, your budget for next year is going to be about $143 million. Is that correct?
I can tell you right now.
I think it's, at least that was my number.
Including the dollars that will go into the
It is
decommissioning trust fund.
$143 million. That's the deposit into the decommissioning trust fund.
Okay. Now tell me what the decommissioning disbursements are going to be next year that we're actually going to use. What's the amount on that?
123.5.
123.5.
Correct.
Thanks. And last year, we actually saved money. We actually spent less than what the projected amount was on the decommissioning disbursements. Is that
That is correct.
Correct.
And last year, in 2018, and I just want to correct because there was an article
yes, that was
a couple
not
days ago
correct.
that was incorrectly quoting that decommissioning expenses were increasing by $13 million. That is
And they are
incorrect.
not.
It is exactly the other way around. Decommissioning expense, the budgeted expense for 2018 was $156 million that was deposited into the fund.
Mm-hmm.
This year is $143 million. That's a $13 million reduction, not increase.
Of what we actually
So just
spent.
for the record, that sometimes words
you.
matter.
We need to correct that because the decommissioning has gone beautifully and they've done a great job
They
keeping
have.
costs low and saving us money.
Yeah.
That is correct.
Agreed.
Any other questions on this slide before I move on? Okay, as I mentioned at the committee meeting last month, the board engages, we have a New Gen Strategies and Solutions is an outside consulting firm that has been reviewing the adequacy of the budget, the financial prudency of the budget, and they provided a draft letter in the preliminary COP. You have a more in detail letter, so it's about a four-page letter in the final COP, and basically their letter says that the expenditures anticipated by the district are reasonable and are the type that would be expected by a utility following prudent utility practices. So don't just take my word for it. It's also I want to also always have an external consultant making sure that we're doing the right thing. Part of the corporate operating plan includes this year board action on two items regarding the FPPA. The FPPA stands for Fuel and Purchase Power Adjustment. This is an automatic adjustment that the board approved many years ago where we say we have our regular operating expenses, the rate that's in place right now. However, OPPD, as well as many other utilities in the country, acknowledge that there are certain costs that vary significantly during the year. Fuel used to be one. Now it's not only fuel, but it's also purchase power agreements or purchase power that we buy from the market. As markets become more integrated, we buy a lot more power. And so we have a mechanism that says the rate will automatically adjust year over year, either upwards or downwards, based on cost of fuel and cost of purchase power. This is not uncommon. Many other utilities have a similar mechanism. In fact, some utilities have that adjustment happen every month or every quarter. For us, it happens once a year. It provides stability to our customers. However, the formula that we have in place today, one could say it's a little outdated. And so the first example I want to bring here, and I talked about this last month, was in 2018, we had one of our transmission lines, 345 transmission lines down south, was knocked down by a tornado. And that caused a lot of market congestion, pricing differentials in the market. For a number of months, many months, we ended up buying power at significantly higher prices because we had congestion happening south of us. That resulted in approximately OPPD having to pay an additional $21.4 million to purchase that power over and above and beyond the budgeted amount. All else being equal, what the formula would say is, well, we under-collected $21.4 million last year. We need to increase the fuel and purchase power rate by $21.4 million because that's the new reality of the market. Right? Well, we know that that's not the new reality of the market. We know that there was a very specific reason this happened. And we also know that through the work that our energy marketing and trading department, we were able to put financial instruments in place, transmission congestion rights in place, that allowed us to recover actually most of that $21.4 million in the form of revenues. Those revenues are not included in the formula. So my ask of the board, part of the resolution, is for the board to forgive the under-collection of $21.4 million caused by this outage, because again, OPPD was held harmless. We were able to recover most of that, and it would not be prudent or fair for us to pass these costs to ratepayers where we know that it's not an ongoing cost that we should recover. The other rate change that we're asking the board to approve, the fuel and purchase power piece of the rate has two components. One is a base rate, the base FPPA rate, and then we have a factor, the FPPA factor. That factor is the one that goes up and down depending on actual costs. We have seen an increase in our reliability on our reliance on markets has told us that there's an increased pressure in cost for purchasing power. The proposal here that management is proposing is to increase the FPPA base rate from 1.955 cents per kilowatt hour to 2.068 cents per kilowatt hour to better reflect the actual costs of fuel and purchase power adjustments. At the same time, this is a question that Director Moody asked last month, we are also proposing to reduce the general rate by a proportional amount, therefore leaving the overall rate unchanged. It's just something that we're doing so that we can better reflect really the cost causation and the cost of fuel and purchase power to the rate. This graph, it's an illustrative way to basically, that says what I tried to say a few seconds ago here. On the left, you have the 2018 rate. It's illustrative for illustrative purposes, but for a residential rate, we're looking at a rate of 11.49 cents per kilowatt. The proposed 2019 stays exactly the same. The orange block, which is the FPPA base rate, is the one that increases. And the gray brownish block at the bottom is one that decreases proportionally, therefore leaving the rate exactly the same. So those are the two changes. These two are deviations from the FPPA that we have today, so therefore it requires board authorization. And those are built into the COP, the corporate operating plan that is in front of you. Any questions on these?
Not on that.
That's just the residential impact. It also, the FPP is factored into the commercial and industrial rates.
It is, and you all have, it's not part of the COP, but you all received a letter from the Brattle Group, which is our rate consultant.
Yep.
They did a more in-depth analysis, and there's a table that shows the anticipated effect for residential, commercial, and industrial, and none of those categories are looking at experiencing any change, really. This is just for illustrative purposes.
Right.
Okay. This slide should have said the Brattle Group. So just as we did with the New Gen Strategies Group, we engaged with the Brattle Group, and you have that letter with you. And with that, again, as I started at the beginning of the presentation, we remain committed to provide affordable, reliable, and environmentally sensitive energy services to our customers. And I strongly believe this budget does that. I think I mentioned this last year when I presented the COP. I was newer to the organization, and I continue to be amazed by how fiscally prudent this organization is. It doesn't matter where you are in the organization, in which center you are, you hear cost and process improvement initiatives, you hear a lot more awareness around fiscal prudency, and this is certainly a refreshing view that I have as a CFO. So I'm very, very proud of what we've done with these, and with that, I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Any comments?
Go ahead. I've just got one.
It has to do with the service charge?
No.
I've got one related to the service charge.
Yes.
And if you can explain that once more to the public, that is going up to $30.
Correct.
However, we're going to have an adjustment in some of the kilowatt usage. Can you explain that? And then who is going to be more at who's going to be taking advantage, can take advantage of this? Who is it as a wash, and who is going to be at a disadvantage for this?
So the service charge is something that the board approved a few years ago, and it is an attempt to more closely match the sources of revenue to the sources of expenditures. Meaning there are many expenditures in our organization, in our operations, that are variable, and some of them are fixed. The amount of fixed expenditures we have in the organization are significantly higher than the variable costs. However, the old rate structure was exactly the other way around. The majority of the revenue that we were receiving from customers was variable, and very little of it was fixed. So there was already a mismatch between fixed and variable costs, between revenues and expenditures. In an effort for the utility to have more predictability, stability in revenues, and for us to plan better for the future, the board approved the rate restructure that basically increased the fixed charge from a little bit over $10 now to $30 coming into 2019. That's the last step of the rate restructure. At the same time, in this evolution, the OPPD has reduced the rate or the kilowatt hour price for the volumetric charge in tandem. On average, the way this was designed was that on average, an average customer shouldn't see any change really in their bill. They're paying more on a fixed charge, but they're also paying proportionally less on the variable charge. It's important that I say on average, because not all customers are exactly the same. There are certain customers who have very little usage, and for them, the break they're getting on the lower volumetric charge might not be as big as the increase they're getting on the fixed charge. So there might be some customers who might be getting, whose bills may be increasing slightly because they use little energy. On the other side of the spectrum, you have customers who use 1,000 kilowatts or more a month, and then they will very likely be either the same as before, or they may actually be better off than they were before, because more of their bill is volumetric and less of their bill is a fixed charge. In fact, to date, I asked the team to run some numbers. Since 2018 is almost done, we have half a month, a couple of weeks left of 2018. I asked them to compare 2018 operations with everything that's happened in this year, with hot months and cool months. I asked them to compare what would our revenues would have been if we had still had the same rate structure we had in 2015 versus the rate structure that we have today in 2018. Now, remember, this is 2018. We don't even have the $30 fixed charge. It's $25 in 2018. The comparison between those two leads us to believe that OPPD recovered approximately $7.8 million less in revenue because of the new rate structure than it would have recovered under the old rate structure, We broke record. We had record high temperatures in May and June, record low temperatures in April. It's been quite a year for energy usage. On aggregate, and I want to make sure that I'm clear. This is in aggregate. Not there are certain customers that may have experienced a bill increase, but in aggregate, the economy of our service territory was better off by $7.8 million because of the rate restructure than without the rate restructure.
Okay. And then I don't know if this would be Julie's question or yours, but we do help subsidize those in LIHEAP that make less than, I think, is it 600?
They use.
They use less than 600 kilowatts?
Yeah.
There is a credit for low income, low usage customers who would have been typically the group that may have been affected negatively by the rate restructure. We had that program in place to help ease in the rate restructure. And I think Julie mentioned, she explained that at the
Right, she
meeting.
explained that at the other meeting.
This may not be a fair question for you, but what is the cost to serve the average customer to deliver services with all the customer service and the transmission and distribution without delivering any energy? Before you deliver energy, do you know what that
I don't have the latest number, but I'm comfortable sharing the estimate. So an average customer, if the average bill is $100 a month, it costs OPPD about $75 to serve that customer regardless of
whether
their
they
energy
take
usage.
power or not?
It's a customer expenses, distribution, transmission, generation that we have to have in place for whenever that customer turns the light switch on. Whether they turn it on or not, we incur that cost. So it's about $75 of that $100 bill. Right now, the service charge is going to $30 of fixed charge. So it's not even half of what the fixed cost would be, but it's certainly better than what it was before, $10.
We use the term fair and equitable in designing rates. Is that our bylaws or would that be state law?
State law.
State law.
It is state law.
Okay, so
It's fair, reasonable, and non-discriminatory is the specific wording in the statute.
okay, so would it be fair to say that, and again, we're not adjusting this going forward, but where the adjustments we have made in this last couple of years to our rate structure with the fixed versus variable, is it fair to say we're closer to being fair and non-discriminatory, would you guess, where we were? I hate to put you on the spot, and I don't want to throw legal.
That's an unfair question to me.
Javier, let me kind of take this on, because I think in the rate restructuring process, we asked the rate consultant at that time about, even though they wouldn't opine on the legal opinion of fair, reasonable, non-discriminatory, that's where we went to our general counsel, but we did ask about the fair, reasonable, non-discriminatory from the rate development perspective. And what we received from the rate consultant at that time is that, yes, to more accurately match costs or revenues with cost, or usage with cost is the more equitable way to do that, right? But they also raised the same concern that we heard in our public outreach and our focus groups about the impact to the low use and specifically low income customers, which is the reason why we began to develop the customer incentive initiative. And the board at that time accepted that as a process that we would help kind of transition those low use, low income customers in that rate restructuring. So.
Okay. Any other comments?
Yeah, I'm gonna move on from that. The one thing that struck me as I was looking at these numbers was looking at the average kilowatt hour per customer figures, and in particular, we're gonna hit a 4-year low with respect to the residential kWh per customer. It's down 7% from what we're projecting for 18, which is year over year rather substantial.
Correct.
Just kind of curious to know, is that what we would describe as sort of just natural energy efficiency that's happening? I see Brad nodding his head, but I assume we're also not anticipating it's going to continue at that rate or help me understand.
I noticed too.
Why it went up the last 3 years prior to that, from 16 to 18, and then it's just taken a really significant dip down.
Yeah, and I think part of it is, Brad, I'm gonna let him explain, but I think part of it is how we budget versus actuals. Brad is our Director of Financial Planning and Analysis, and he oversees our resource planning group and the group that forecasts load. So, Brad, do you wanna?
Yeah, thanks. So it's a great question. I think one note of caution, there's two data points in the book. There's kilowatt hour sales and there's revenue. So I just kind of advise people, sometimes it's easy to sort of get lost in between the two. Sometimes it happens to me, so I like to be clear with that up front. I think it's well documented within the utilities work and in the industry that energy efficiency continues to erode kilowatt hour sales demand. And so I think that you're seeing that in the plan. I think that's a good observation. And I think that reality is part of the broader picture about what's going on with pricing and with rates and those sorts of things. So your observation is correct in my opinion.
It's just curious to me that it increased the 3 years prior and then this year. And I agree with you. Like when I look at macro level trends, we're seeing this kind of natural energy efficiency. It's happening broadly. Yeah. But it's just curious to me that we've seen an increase over the last 3 years, and all of a sudden this pretty significant 7% increase caught me off guard.
There's a great tension there between trying to generalize a group of years. Sure. But if you think about what has gone on in Omaha and the building and the development and the price of real estate, so there's a lot of components I think within this picture. But even amongst those realities, the average use per customer or average use per household really continues to move in a very definitive direction.
Okay, all right.
Craig, I think part of it is the rapid adoption of LED lighting in homes. Sure. A couple of years ago, those lamps were really expensive, and they've come down dramatically. I mean, big time.
And energy efficiency appliances also.
Yeah.
So if I could just offer a counterpoint, looking at the EIA data that is published, Nebraska is still in the residential and commercial both. One of the top 7 or 8 states in the United States of energy use per capita overall. So that natural, and this is another phrase I'll fight against, there's nothing natural at all. I mean, this has been pushing hard in the marketplace, pushing hard on technologies, a lot of engineering and a lot of work to become more productive. So if Nebraska should ever catch up, we'll probably see it drop even more.
Sure.
Yeah, so my answer is less opinion and more sort of fact based on what the numbers bear out. And so I'm not trying to engage in any of that. But a lot of what you see with electrical usage in Nebraska is also cost of electricity. And so as part of a broader picture, a lot of times what happens is when you have a low cost commodity, you tend to see higher usage, and so that may be part of the point that you make, Director Yoder.
Could be.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brad.
Do any members of the public care to comment?
Can I make one last comment?
I'm sorry. Sure.
Just on an overall, I've had a chance to review this operating plan, and in spite of more than 5% drop in revenues, they're putting a meaningful improvement to the bottom line, which demonstrates pretty aggressive operating leverage from the operational folks. It demonstrates, as Javier mentioned earlier, more interest income, but also an improvement in the interest expense based on the transactions taken in the last couple of years. And so if you stand back and look at this from 30,000 feet, the management's performance in 2017 and in 2018 in achieving results against budget, I have a high level of confidence that this is a very achievable budget. I would still characterize it as aspirational and pretty aggressive, but I have a very high level of confidence that they'll get there.
That's a great point. The last 2 years, I think we're projected from a net profit standpoint almost right on the mark, right at that $79 million.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Which is no accident.
No.
And also, you know, I think your debt to capitalization ratio, that steadily decreased from 2016 till now because of your bond defeasance and refinancing has really, really helped.
Correct. There are two factors that affect the debt ratio. One is the number of assets, the value of the assets we have, and the other one is the value of the debt we have.
Right.
We have not issued net new debt. We have issued debt in different forms for refinancing or to replenish defeasance, cash defeasances, but we haven't really increased the portfolio of our debt. Exactly. So that has gone down. But at the same time, in the past 3 years, we have continued to add to our capital base. So while our assets, the value of our assets continue to grow, the value of our debt continues to decrease, and those two together result in an improvement in our debt ratio significantly. Yes.
Thanks, Javier.
Thank you.
Any members of the public here to comment on this item?
John Pollock, 1412 North 35th Street, Omaha. I have a comment and a question. My comment first is we've been over this before. There are a wide variety of ways in which to construe fair and reasonable. This is for illustration only. I had an occasion to visit a friend in Brazil back in the 1980s who wanted a landline telephone. The fair and reasonable policy was that if you want a telephone, that's fine, but you can pay the phone company the price for putting in the poles and stringing the wire from wherever the last pole and wire is up to your house. And it was well over $2,000, and that was before a lot of inflation was under the water. I think that Nebraska wisely has decided that rural and urban areas should have a fairly equalized charge for their electricity, and that the urban areas, in fact, should be subsidizing rural areas where the costs otherwise for the infrastructure to deliver the electricity would go through the roof. But this is an example of, there are a lot of decisions that go into fair and reasonable and how society chooses to look at these things. I happen to disagree with the raising the fixed rate as much as you have because I look at it quite differently. The question, and perhaps this is the wrong time and you can inform me if it is, I recall from discussions of the last few years that there was a period where we were having to dip into the sort of rainy day fund in order to, we were running a deficit. I'm wondering if that has been fixed. Are we putting money back into the rainy day fund that we took out a few years ago? I didn't see anything about that in this particular
Sure, I think Javier addressed this earlier on in the process. So there's a couple rainy day funds. One is a rate stabilization fund that we have have funded that to the level that we had identified that to be funded, which is $50 million. And that is for some significant event that would force us to do something immediately to the organization that we can use those funds for those reasons. It's very limited in how we can use it. So it's just not a slush fund that we move things around. It doesn't work like that. The other fund that Javier talked about early in the process is that we have begun from a decommissioning and future liability, primarily for pension, that we are creating a deferred account that could fund our decommissioning cost as we begin to move through this deconstruction process, or at some point in time fund additionally the deferred liability or the debt liability that we have on our pension fund. And so those continually increase, and as Javier said, he hasn't, I know he's been going around looking at desk drawers to get change and cash and doing all those kinds of things, because we are going to add additional dollars to those deferred liability accounts. but it's because we've been able to operate incredibly well within the operations of the district. But we recognize that there is a deferred liability there on the pension fund, and depending on the decommissioning work and the activity and the cost around that, we just want to make sure we're very conservative in that approach. And so we're able to do that without a general rate increase or a rate increase that would increase our revenues to the district.
Just to confirm a couple things. So we just started putting money into the deferred fund last year.
2016.
It was 16?
Yeah, 2016 it was developed, and we began to put it in 16.
In 17.
The fund was created in 2016. It sat empty for about a year, and at the end of 2017, we made the first deposit in there. Also, at the end of 2017, we made the last deposit into the rate stabilization fund of $8 million. That fully funded it to $50 million. So we're not planning on making any more deposits into the rate stabilization fund because it's been fully funded. We're in a good place now, and we have the ability now to start funding for these other liabilities.
And how much do we have right now before you add the additional decommissioning pension benefit fund?
$34.5 million approximately. It's on the decommissioning benefits reserve account today, and $50 million on the rate stabilization.
And you're going to hopefully add to that decommissioning pension fund in the next month or two?
Correct. I should bring these back to the board in the next month or two.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Good afternoon, Scott Williams, 1139 South 93rd Avenue. I live in Director Moody's district. Last month I was instructed not to ask questions of the board, so I'll address my comments. If by chance anyone wants to respond while I'm speaking, I'm open to that, but I was told that I'm not to ask questions and engage in a dialogue. The CFO mentioned that there might be people who are hurt by the rate restructure, and I think honestly that that term was disingenuous. There are people who are definitively hurt by the rate restructure that was implemented, specifically those people who are low users. It's not that they might, it's that they have been. Their bills have been going up. The low users include people who have chosen to make energy efficiency investments in their own properties. Those individuals who use low amounts of energy because that is the part of the bill that they can control. And those who are low income and who are cost conscientious about their bills. Those individuals who have employed distributed generation, such as clean and renewable solar, which would substantially lower the usage portion of your bill, making you disproportionately affected by the rate restructure and the increased fixed fees. So it's not that there might be people, but that there are. There are people who definitively, friends of mine, some of the individuals, some of the 100+ people who were here 3 years ago, filling this room and an overflow room to tell you that rate restructure was a mistake. Yet in January, the fixed fees are going to be going up more, continuing to disproportionately hurt those same low-use individuals. I think it's also disingenuous to continuously talk about no general rate increase. This is printed in the newspapers when reporters speak with directors, management, or staff of the district, and it's never discussed that bills are going up because the rate is not increasing, but the fixed fees have gone up many times. It's 3 times higher than it was just 3 years ago. And I think that's a disingenuous representation of the real concern of the ratepayer owners, people such as myself, because it's not really the rate that we actually care about, it's the bill. I don't pay you a rate, I pay a bill. And so to continuously use a talking point that talks about no rate increases while obfuscating the fact that bills have gone up because fixed fees have been increased erodes public trust in the public power district. This organization is operated with the consent, with the trust of the public. That's the public power district. And that is not an absolute. We're the only state in the nation that maintains public power explicitly. And if the district continues to abuse the trust of the public, of the ratepayers, we lose the faith and the confidence of the ratepayer owners of the district. And so to misrepresent things, talking about people who might be hurt, or talking about no rate increases while bills go up is disingenuous, and I think that's a mistake. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Chris, you call the roll.
Barrett?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Gay?
Yes.
McGuire?
Yes.
Mines? Moody?
Yes.
Trinan?
Yes.
Yoder?
Yes.
Motion carried. Agenda item 15, resolution of appreciation, Tom Barrett, resolution number 6290. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Omaha Public Power District as follows. 1, that at a meeting duly convened on the 13th day of December 2018, his fellow board members and management of the district hereby publicly acknowledge the dedicated and distinguished service of Tom Barrett as a director of the Omaha Public Power District. 2, that the board wishes to express appreciation of Mr. Barrett's invaluable contributions to the success of the district. 3, that a certified copy of this resolution, suitably prepared and inscribed, to be presented to Tom Barrett to serve as a reminder of his faithful and loyal service.
Second. Has there been a motion and a second?
I'll make a motion, yeah.
Move by second.
This is an exciting time for OPPD. We have 3 new board members who will be coming on board in January. We certainly congratulate and welcome those new members. On the flip side, too, it's unfortunate that we have to say goodbye to 3 of our current members. The first resolution, and we have to do this separately, I guess, to keep it legal. So, first resolution is going to salute the services and accomplishments of Director Tom Barrett. On a personal note, I knew Tom's family, his sisters and his dad, long before I knew Tom. His dad helped me out quite a bit when I first ran for the board 24 years ago. And I've always tried to, whenever I see him, stop and say hello. And just as a coincidence, I see him about every St. Patrick's Day. And when I ran into Mr. Barrett, Frank, that first St. Patrick's Day after you were elected, Tom, he said to me, "How's that kid of mine doing?" I said, "Mr. Barrett's doing great. Glad to have him on board." And most years he's said the same thing. And I'm a pretty good judge of reading people, and I can see in his voice and in his eye. He's very proud of you, Tom. And I'm going to tell you what, that's the biggest accomplishment a man can have, is making their parents proud.
Well, thank you.
And I'm going to tell you what, when I see him St. Patrick's Day this year, I'm going to say, we sure miss your kid. Because we will. Thanks, congratulations. You've been a great board member. You'll be a lifetime friend.
Well, thank you. I just want to say a few words. I want to thank all the folks at OPPD, from Tim Burke, who's amazing and a visionary, all the way down to the folks who dig trenches and the splicers and the customer service people. Everybody on the majority love to work here. And it's a great family, and the people who work here and retire always tell you that they're members of the OPPD family. And I want to say thank you to a couple people in particular. On the labor side, I've worked with Danny Bagley and Mark Salerno and Doug Madison on a lot of issues. They would come to me, we'd have lunch, they'd talk about it, and I think it made me a better director. And with Mark being here, she has opened up channels of dialogue that weren't there before. And I think just the folks are a lot happier. The blue collar and the white collar and the management and the labor, I think it's a lot better, and it's a salute to you. A couple people who aren't here, John Hanson, who I worked with, who is just a wonderful guy, and he just puts his head down and just he's a tremendous person all around. Mo Dogman, I learned a lot about. Edward Eastland, who was the first one who was the CFO, just amazing. And he'd take time and he'd explain it, and we were kind of knuckleheads, and he just lay it all out. 4, 5, 6 times if it took that. He was very patient with all of us. And I work a lot with Lisa Olson. She's my person that I contact the most, and she's always been there, and it's just great. And Steve Bruckner has always kept us in the narrow, and his partner Troy. So I just want to say it's been a delightful 6 years. It's 12 might have been too long. With elections, some days you're the hammer, some days you're the nail. So,
That's right.
It's all a crapshoot. And it's a great organization. I love public power, I love OPPD, and, you know, it's bright days ahead. So thank you very much, Tim Burke, and your team.
Hey, Tom, we still got good things to say about you, so, in this resolution. Actually, the resolution too, they're all a little bit different, because you're all a little bit different. We have 3 resolutions, but in a good way, I mean that. But also, it's, during your tenure.
Yeah. Everyone does things a little bit different.
Exactly, but during your tenure on the board, you know, you did a great job serving District 6, but it also says here, you know, you were vice chair of the board, secretary, and chaired or served on all 5 of the board standing committees over your time here. Did you know that?
I try to stay awake.
And then, and it also says here, Tom, it's like your service, and I agree with this, was characterized by a strong interest and knowledge of the district's business and by his steady guidance and oversight of the district, applying the breadth of his experience, judgment, and expertise in business and community activities. So we'd all agree with that. But another thing is, like, I gotta say, Tom, you always made it fun. I think I've said by every year.
Why do we always put you two
I don't know.
together? I don't
But
know.
some interesting conversations going down here. But
You're kind of unfiltered.
yeah, no, it's been fun. I respect the work you put in. The one thing that I always saw in every decision you made, you always talked about the ratepayers. It's either the ratepayers or you talked about the OPPD team. And that always, every time you said that, that's like exactly right. Those are the 2 things that really you should look out for, and I think you did a great job doing that. So wish you well, you know, whatever else you go on to.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just pile on with that. As I've thought about saying goodbye to the 3 of you, the one thing that I really wanted to think about was what have I learned from you most, and that's what I've learned from you, Tom, the most is your ability to think about multiple different perspectives, and especially as it relates to the ratepayers and the entire OPPD employees. That's been helpful to hear you think about that, and that line of questioning is something that I've learned a lot from.
Well, thank you, Craig.
I've always, I've seen Tom when he's in a crowd, and he knows how to relate to people. He goes one-on-one, hi, what's going on? Anything I can do for you. He's always there. He's got the knack as far as communication. He's got the EQ.
Well, thank you, Ann.
Jump with the crowd.
So I'd like to add on to what everybody else is adding on. I have 2 kind of vivid memories, Tom. One is in this room when you looked at our VPs and you talked about the diversity and how proud you are that OPPD has that diversity. And that echoes, I'm not surprised at all that you pointed out Mart. I think you've had and shown and verbalized a strong commitment to the employees that we have here. And I do appreciate that.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
Bye, Tom.
You're next, so you better watch.
I was just adopted by Mick.
Well,
Okay,
why
should we
don't we
vote
go
on this
ahead and, do we need to vote on this separately?
Yeah. Any public comments?
Does anyone, any members of the public care to comment about Tom? Speak now or forever hold your peace.
Come on, Green.
Oh, he is up there.
I'm only here for the 3 of you.
That's sweet of you.
Okay.
Okay.
Package deal.
Barrett,
Yes.
Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Gay,
Yes.
McGuire,
Yes.
Mines,
Heck yes.
Moody,
Yes.
Trinan,
Yes.
Yoder.
Yes.
Motion carried. Agenda item 16, resolution of appreciation, McMines, resolution number 6291. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Omaha Public Power District as follows. 1, that at a meeting duly convened on this 13th day of December 2018, his fellow board members and management of the district hereby publicly acknowledge the dedicated and distinguished service of McMines as a director of the Omaha Public Power District. 2, that the board wishes to express appreciation of Mr. Mines' invaluable contributions to the success of the district. 3, that a certified copy of this resolution, suitably prepared and inscribed, be presented to McMines to serve as a reminder of his faithful and loyal service.
Mr. Chairman, can I also say this is unique to Director Mines? And
We need a motion in a second.
motion.
Oh, I'm sorry, make a motion.
Second.
Okay.
Okay, what I'd like to say, this resolution is, they are unique in their own way. Mick was also elected in 2013 with Tom, but he, on his tenure as board, he served as chairman of the board, vice chairman, treasurer, secretary, and also he was on every single committee chaired those committees. And it goes on as well, Mick, to say, you know, the strong interest and knowledge of the district's business and steady guidance and oversight for the district, applying your breadth and experience, judgment, and expertise into the business and community sectors. So those are important things because they've, you know, you sit here today, there's been a lot of meetings you've attended and done a great job chairing, so appreciate it.
Thank you. And I'm going to take the opportunity like Tom did. In 6 years, and first of all, I want to recognize former director John Green. Thank you for being here. When I came on the board, you were a mentor. And this thing has changed an awful lot. Everybody here is in a different role. In fact, we've got brand new folks. The OPPD legacy continues. In fact, it's as good as I saw it from the first. It's better today. We have incredibly dedicated people, not just sitting in this room, but you know, in both or all of the craft people. And I tell people always, they say, "What, you know, what do you like best about OPPD?" I said, "Well, it's the smart people that you get to work with. You people are the cream of the crop. You really are." And I'm looking at you, but there are 1,800 more out there. It's a great company, and the mission is perfect. You do it to great extent, and I just appreciate your patience with me, and I appreciate just getting to know you and work with you. You guys are great. Thank you.
I can remember, Mick, when you got elected, you defeated an incumbent, Lloyd Chief, and at the time I liked Lloyd. I was upset that he lost.
Me too.
All I knew about Mick was I knew you held political office previously. I knew your name certainly. Yeah. You'd been governor, or excuse me, mayor of Blair, and you'd been a state senator and stuff. And when you first got elected, I took to you right away. It was like you were an easygoing guy, good guy, very respected. I learned a lot from you in your 6 years, and I appreciate your help and the chance to vent at you when I needed to at night. He's taking your place, John. I call him up sometimes to vent when you're not available. But in any event, it's been fun. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
You know, I think it's important to mention the leadership that you've given us. You know, in the past 6 years, there have been major changes. We've had a new CEO, new CFO. You know, we've changed all of our, really almost all of our VPs have changed, you know, in some way or another. We've got a lot more women on the board now than ever before. We have 5 women on the board. And there's also been a change as far as
management.
Management. Okay. The management, sorry. We're going to have more women on the board next year, though. I'm looking forward to that. But there's been a lot of change. You know, we've changed the policies and everything else, and the strategic direction has changed. And both, you know, Tom and you have been there all 6 years during that major change. And it's been huge. Probably more change in that 6 years than the 22 years I've been here. And thank you both.
Great.
For being here and hanging on and going with it.
Thank you.
Director Mines?
Yes, sir.
The one thing that I've learned for you, I've really appreciated the way in which you've balanced a serious approach to your work while keeping it lighthearted. Yeah. And I think that's something that I've really gained from you. Every time I would call you, you know, you'd pick up the phone and say, "Moody." That's something that I tend to want to dive right into work, and I think you've helped me understand, and I've really learned about how to approach the work in a way that you build relationships, and that allows you as a director to do a better job. So thank you for your leadership.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Tom. You get to see him every day. Director Mines, I want to say thank you for your service to this board. You're a great person to be around. You make everyone better, and you are incredibly intelligent in the ways of the world. And I always look for you when I'm confused or I don't know what direction to go. I either talk to you or Mr. K. And they usually put me, you shine the light. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Director Mines, I too appreciate your leadership. I appreciate your patience with me at times. More than at times.
Sometimes.
Yeah. And again, it's the humor as well. And one thing, perhaps to provide a segue from this resolution to the next one, I know there's a vote in between, but one thing that I do appreciate is being bookended by two of my contemporaries. And these are people who will pick up on who Maynard G. Krebs is, but maybe not everybody does. So I do appreciate having those years of experience that can be applied to the problems and the issues and the opportunities of today. So thank you.
I want to quote a wise man. Bye, Mick.
Thank you. Best of luck. Thank you.
Hey, one more thing. On a personal note, that was as chairman of the governance committee, but on a personal note, I do want to thank you because when he was Senator Mines, I was on your committee, and you were very kind to me then. Then we come here, and you're very kind to me. So you onboarded me in two places, but you were always great about it. And I mean that. It's like I think, everyone says, like Craig and Tom, you just got a nice personality, go with the flow, very business oriented, and very, you're just a good leadership that way. Calm down, right, people? So we'll miss that, but I've always admired you for that. Like Craig says, you have fun doing it, but you're very serious and do a great job. So we will miss you. Wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Anyone from the public here to comment? Okay. Christie?
Okay. Barrett?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Gay?
Yes.
McGuire?
Yes.
Mines?
Yes.
Moody?
Yes.
Trinan?
Yes.
Yoder?
Yes.
Motion carried. Agenda item 17, resolution of appreciation, Mark Trinan, resolution number 6292. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Omaha Public Power District as follows. 1, that at a meeting duly convened on this 13th day of December 2018, his fellow board members and management of the district hereby publicly acknowledge the dedicated and distinguished service of Mark Trinan as a director of the Omaha Public Power District. 2, that the board wishes to express appreciation of Mr. Trinan's invaluable contributions to the success of the district. 3, that a certified copy of this resolution, suitably prepared and inscribed, be presented to Mark Trinan to serve as a reminder of his faithful and loyal service.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to second?
Yep. And then just on the resolution, Director Trinan says here, obviously you were appointed by Governor Ricketts to replace Director Richard Hurley. And during your tenure on the board for serving Subdivision 1, you served as on the Finance, Insurance, and Audit and the Nuclear and System Management committees, and done a remarkable job too, by the way, in that amount of time. But I'll turn it over to Director Kavanaugh now.
It was clear from the first day, Mark, that the governor hit a home run when he appointed you. You've done an outstanding job. You hit the ground run on the first day. You offered excellent leadership from the get-go. You obviously had a very outstanding background coming into in your professional life leading up to this appointment, and it showed. And we appreciate your all you've done. It's been too short, obviously. I wish it was longer, but it's been a pleasure serving with you.
I appreciate that.
It was really, next. I was really impressed at how quickly you onboarded.
Oh, yeah.
In many
You
ways,
onboarded the heck
you
out of
knew
me.
just as much.
Christie,
In many ways, you're almost equal in sometimes to some of the VPs as far as discussing the especially the finance and everything. You right on, you knew what was going on. And I appreciate also, I don't think you missed the nuclear decommissioning meeting.
Nope.
As far as any of the quarterly meetings, and you're excellent there too. I really appreciate your input for all of those in the systems.
Thank you.
Director, I've really enjoyed the time that we spent together. I really value the relationship that we built. I think when I think about what I've learned from you, I've really valued the opportunity to sit next to you on the Finance and Audit Committee. I've learned so much from you in those meetings, and that's something that's going to help me for years to come. So I thank you for your service. It's been very valuable.
And just yesterday, you shared your almonds with me.
I did indeed.
Boy, those are bonds.
I felt we made a connection.
We did.
Good protein, yes.
Mark Trinan, I want to say thank you for when the governor said, come aboard. And his wife Ursula is here.
Yeah, we should mention Ursula.
And you're a great family man. You're proud of your kids. And I didn't learn that much from you because every time you spoke, I knew you're the smartest guy at the table, and my jaw just dropped out or my head just froze up, so I didn't learn. But I was truly amazed. It was like seeing the St. Louis Arch for the first time. It was like that.
I can't make this stuff up, Tom.
It's serious. No, though, too. The arch, that's a good one.
Archway.
You were very impressive, I gotta say. But anyway, I would say that you were just the biggest quick study I've ever seen. I mean, you came on the board, it's like, wow, this guy gets it. It's very comforting, too. I mean, we are going to miss that on the finance end. With your, I mean, you're such a successful businessman in your past and bringing that to the board and sharing it. And I just want to tell you, I admire so much how you just jumped into this thing and committed to it clear up until right now. I mean, that's impressive for anybody to look at and do in your future career. So that's what I learned from you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Yeah, it's, while yay, as Director Kavanaugh said, the governor made a great pick. Thanks to the governor for that. Thanks to you for all of the wisdom that you provided us, not just in finance discussions, but certainly in the systems committee as well, and actually any discussion that we've had. Your experience was outstanding, and I found very valuable and will miss deeply. So thank you.
Well, Mark, you're a smart guy. And I knew I'd like you because you drive great cars and you have a beautiful wife. I mean, why wouldn't you like that? No, I mean, everybody said it. You hit the ground running. You have been a tremendous board member. And I'm going to miss seeing you and just getting to be around you and your hot cars.
Now, is it my turn for 3 minutes of rebuttal?
Yeah.
Yes.
Start the
Timer, yeah.
No, I just want to say thank you so much. This has been, I've been honored and very grateful for this experience. I was always impressed with OPPD because in my career I had opportunities to meet with OPPD's leadership. I'm more impressed now than I've ever been. What a great, great organization and a great management team. Even the people in near OPPD orbit, like Steve Bruckner, are such impressive people. And you know, it's been a lot of fun for me getting to know all you folks. It really has. It's been educational, entertaining. Christy and they just onboarded the heck out of me. And the governor appointed me to do a job, and I hope I did it to the best of my abilities.
Yeah.
But it's been awesome. It really has. And I think I've made some friends here, and I hope we stay in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And if I can ever offer any help, I'm just at the other end of my phone. So.
Thanks, Mark. Anyone from the public here to comment on Director Trinan? Seeing none. Christie?
Barrett?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Gay?
Yes.
McGuire?
Yes.
Mines?
Yes.
Moody?
Yes.
Trinan?
Yes.
Yoder?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay. We're going to do pictures, but it'll be at the end of the meeting rather than right now. So why don't we next go to the president's message?
Great, thank you very much, and thank you for that. Just a couple things that I kind of want to talk about. I want to start at the kind of our generating side of the business, kind of work our way in. But as you see up on the chart here, Nebraska City unit number 1 in the month of November had a capacity factor of 66.75% and really remained in service for the entire month. We did have some derate due to some operational issues that should be resolved certainly by the end of December here or over the next couple of weeks. So we'll see that kind of rebound in 2019. Nebraska City was in full service for the month of November with the exception of a 35-hour unit outage in late of the month for some repairs. We had North Omaha Unit 4 well, let me back up. Let me go units 1, 2, and 3. They remain in reserve shutdown during the month, as many of the folks know, and certainly that may be on the webcast. The board decided to shut those 3 units down from coal use and transfer them to natural gas use. Outside of testing for natural gas, I think in 18 we really haven't used them, but they're there for the capacity value that we need for the market. Unit 4 was available for full capacity during the month of November, except for about 33 hours because of some operational issues and an exciter issue at that unit. And Unit 5 was available for full capacity during November, with the exception of 2 units two outages that last about 155 hours. And there's a variety of different repairs that we made when those units came down. So that's really our fossil units. I'll talk a little bit about the peaking units. Our peaking units during this time of the year as we prepare for the summer in 2019, and even right now, because some of our peaking units have been used just in the last couple of weeks, that have been called for as a demand on the regional system, primarily for either transmission resiliency issues or voltage support issues for the region. They're currently in a variety of different inspections, testing. An example would be relay testing that we're doing. We're doing some transformer work that supports those units to make sure that they're ready as we need them, even more so during the summer for peak reasons. The board received a pretty deep briefing on our Fort Calhoun decommissioning activity, but as Mary presented, we did have a NRC public meeting to discuss a partial site release of 2 sections of property from the Fort Calhoun license that the NRC governs. 3 members of the public attended the meeting, along with representatives from the state of Nebraska and Iowa, and public comments were submitted or will be submitted or can be submitted until December 26, 2018, and you can do that on the NRC website. This really gives us some flexibility not to have that property covered under the NRC rules and regulations. Also gives us an opportunity to determine another use of that property as we move forward. In the month of November, renewables for the month contributed to about 32.3% of OPPD's retail energy sales, and the wind capacity factor for the month was 42.4%. For the year through November 2018, renewable energy contributed to 31.3% of total energy sales. The capacity factor for all the renewables, which includes our landfill gas, includes our hydro allocation that we get from the Western Area Power Agency, and obviously our wind resources, our wind resources that we have as well, about 1,000 megawatts or close to that. And the wind capacity factor was at 42.4%. So we continue to see good energy generation from our wind resources. I'm going to ask the board and maybe the chair to give me just a little bit of liberty here. And this may not be for anybody in this audience, just to be very honest with you, but it may be for the employees at OPPD. And I'm going to share it in this way, and I'm going to give you an example of kind of our commitment and what we do within this organization. And many of the board members talked about the commitment of the employees, but last month was an interesting month. People wondered why I didn't do the president's report, and I'll be honest with you, I leaned over to Chairman Kavanaugh and I said, I don't think I should do the chairman's report. I'm actually concerned about what I would say because I'm going to sound like a defensive father here because the words that came out of a number of people's mouths, whether it was written for them or written by themselves or however it was developed, was around whether OPPD had the appropriate moral compass or had the appropriate ethic imperatives to do the right thing for the future. And I was actually really disappointed in those comments. I think they were spoken with some naivety and some ignorance about who we are and who our employees are and what our employees do. And I'm going to give you an example of what that may look like. Because obviously the folks that were speaking have no idea what we do. They do not know of the ethics imperative training that this leadership team has gone through and we've cascaded through the organization. They don't know how we hold ourselves accountable for the work that we do and the decisions that we make day in and day out, every single day. And so when people make those light of heart comments and credit themselves and however they want to credit themselves and how good they've done, whether it's in an editorial in a paper or whether it's in a comment here, sorry, I'm going to be a defensive father for the employees who put their ass on the line every single day and every hour of the day. And they are the most integrity-focused, ethics-focused, morality-focused people that I know. And I will take any company and compare them with folks at OPPD. Nobody holds anything close to what we do every single day. And I'm not going to let people get away with that. I'm just going to let you know that very clearly. And so if people want to question the moral compass, then you question mine. If you want to question the ethical imperatives, then you question mine. But by God, don't you question the people in our organization and our senior management team that give far more hours to this community and this company and to our employees than anybody that I've seen. And I'm not going to allow that kind of behavior to go unresponsed in any single way. And I apologize for that. But now I'm going to give you the example. I'm going to give you the example that wasn't shared last week, because what was shared last month was, you know, we are the largest emitter in Douglas County. There's no doubt about it, because our boiler is 25 times bigger than any other manufacturer in the city of Omaha and Douglas County. There's a reason for that. There's a reason for that and why plants were built in 1940, 1950, and 1960. And we are, and this board and previous boards have made decisions about how we are moving away from being a biggest emitter in Douglas County. We've made decisions on units 1, 2, and 3. We have a plan and a date on when other decisions will be made on units 4 and 5. And so we will not be the biggest emitter in this region, right? The biggest emitter in this region are people that hail up as 100% renewable. I think that's indigenous. I think that's not right, right? So we are working through those issues. My team over the last 6 months have been focusing on what this future looks like, right, from our perspective. And we are looking at the trends. And as I shared with a couple board members yesterday, is that I'm going to be meeting with them individually over the course of the next month, because we have 5 really critical strategic imperatives and initiatives about what the future of generation and transmission, two-way communication, digital end-to-end strategy. What about our customer experience? What about our customer interface? How are we going to gather customer input about what this new energy marketplace is going to do? No different than the other strategic initiatives that we, over the last couple of years, presented to the board. We'll be doing that and getting board input and perspective. But for people to think that we don't think out, I would say then you haven't asked, because we will present something to this board for consideration of our strategic initiatives, probably within that first quarter timeframe, about what we believe we should look at and what are the implications of that future for not only this company, not only for this community, for our employees, for our customer owners. And we're going to be very comprehensive about that. I will assure you that this team has the capability to do that, and we will do that, and we'll begin to share that in the next week or so with the board. But let me give you an example in this next slide. And you may not be able to see it here, but you can certainly see it here. I shared this for those that went to the Sierra Club meeting. I presented this because I think this speaks to our commitment to ethical imperatives and our moral compass. On the top part of this chart is a red line. It's the maximum regulatory requirements under the mercury air toxic standard that went into effect several years ago. Then there's a green line below that. Green line below that is about half that maximum regulatory requirement of the mercury air toxic standard rule. And you see our performance underneath that. We are currently a low emitter status, and not every coal plant is a low emitter status in the United States of America, and maybe not even within this region. But we have made a decision to be incredibly strong environmental stewards on the assets that we have and the assets that we use. Because we are a low emitter status in Nebraska City 2, we're moving to be a low emitter status in Nebraska City 1. That's the assets that we have, and that's how we've environmentally focused our work around that. So what was not necessarily shared and discussed is what we're doing around those kinds of things. And you can see the nitrate oxide, the sulfur dioxide reductions that we've seen just in the last year and the focus that we're doing to make sure that we are incredibly good stewards. I think it's appropriate for me to share the work and the focus of this leadership team and our employees day in and day out, and how they're looking at what we do in this organization, what we do in the community, and what we do in the environment. The next page is even more interesting. It's around our mercury emissions and what we've done on units, North Omaha units 4 and 5, and these are very consistent with what goes on in Nebraska City 1 and Nebraska City 2 as well. With the work that we're doing. Look at the changes. It's about a 90 to 95% reduction in units 4 and 5 on our mercury emissions at North Omaha. Well below the regulatory standards, well below the low emitter status. This is our commitment to environmental stewardship that shows up in the work that we do that usually doesn't get talked about because we're relatively humble in what we do and how we do that. I think it's important to share that. Now let me talk a little bit about kind of our commitment in the next slide around our core values. October of this year reminded a lot of people at OPPD about October 26th of 1997. John Green's here, and so he certainly remembers that. He was the chair at the time. But it was a great example of a storm that came early in the year, heavy storm, heavy rain, snow, ice, leaves still on the trees. And by 11:45 on that Sunday, we had about 5,000 customers out. At 12:15, we had 13,000 customers out. At 1:45, we had 43,000 customers out. And at the peak, we had around 52,000 customers that were out. The picture up here is a crew that was working to restore power near 132nd and Grover. During that weekend, we had over 100 OPPD crews working in the field. We had folks throughout the organization that were engaged in what was going on. We had an individual that was retiring and was vacationing out who came in to assist Troy Vai, who was the new VP of Energy Delivery. That's the kind of commitment that people had. But we were able to work through that. And within just a day or so, we were able to restore 99% of the people, except for some of the most greatest damage that we saw with trees and wind and other kinds of things. We had a lot of customers visiting our storm and outage center. I think this has been the greatest ever. 25,000 folks that visited the storm and outage center, had nearly 800 view posts on the restoration process and on the top 10 storm stories that went on. We engaged almost 2,300 on Facebook with about 819 comments. There were nearly 650 comments on Twitter, 250 replies. We're trying to meet the customers where they are in multiple channels, whether that's on calls in the field, whether it's on Twitter, whether it's whatever device that they are on. So we've seen significant increase in how we communicate with customers. And I tell you, after that storm, I received incredible feedback from folks about the information that they had on our restoration process for that storm. I want to go to the next slide on our commitment to the community and not only our passion to serve. Part of this is people don't really understand what goes on in this energy industry. Some of it's naivety, some of it just don't understand what we do. And so for the last 5 years, we've been working with students in a variety of different grades to understand what goes on in the energy business, not just for us, but a variety of other companies as well. So on October 15th and 17th, we had over 175 students from Mars Magnet School, from Papillion La Vista, from Omaha South, from North High, from Northwest, from Blackburn High School. We had partners like Lincoln Electric Service, Metropolitan Utilities District, Black Hills Energy, Northeast Community College, Metro Community College, University of Nebraska, that was really there to help support this focus on utility education and utility experiences so that we can make sure that we continue to recruit the best and the brightest brightest, certainly in this region, and we're talking about expanding that to other parts of our service territory as well. The next item is around honoring our community. We have a variety of employee resource groups that do so many things in the community. This is an example of the second annual OPPD Women Network that provided a Halloween event that raised money for Make-A-Wish. They served over 117 plates with the help of a variety of our employee resource groups. We had a couple of individuals. I'd like to recognize Michelle Deering and Carmen Schicker of our OPPD Women's Network that chaired that. But just an ongoing commitment to give back. This was on a weekend. This wasn't 8 to 5. This was on weekends. They provide a lot of services in the evenings for a variety of community, families, and needs. Next is another honor of our community, but also our passion to serve. People who have had the passion to serve. Our OPPD's Veterans Employee Resource Group participated in the Veterans Parade. Again, if most of you may remember, that was a very, very cold and damp Saturday. And matter of fact, someone in a meeting earlier today, there was a high school SEAL group that decided not to go because it was too cold. But yeah, we had, this is only a sample of our employees, but we had 35 or 40 employees that were there that were representing our Veterans Network. And it's important to also recognize their past service to this country. But just another great opportunity in how we show up in the community and do the things that we do. The other thing is in this next little slide here is our new legacy group, a group of about 30 folks that we're working with to build their capabilities for the future. This is our legacy I3 students, and we thought it'd be a great opportunity to help them learn what it means to be part of the OPPD family and what does honor the community mean. And so on a Saturday, November 17th, we took these young kids with several of our employees to the Heart Ministry that distributed food to about 350 families and helped them pack up their holiday specials, which includes bags of green beans and pies and yams and everything else you need for a great Thanksgiving dinner. And last but not least, we're still in this process here, but our Veterans Network have picked up our Toys for Tots, and they just do an amazing job. I don't know how many boxes full we're going to have, but it'll be 45 boxes full of toys. And our Papillion Center has a partnership with Walgreens, and they go in and essentially they donate their own money. They go and they buy these gifts for these young kids that need toys. And it's just an example. And so when people say that, and question the moral compass or character or ethics imperatives, again, I would take that on any single day of the year, and I'd be willing to do that. And last but not least, it's just a great opportunity for us to remember those at OPPD that gave their life in the line of service. And this is Lawrence Wood. He was a lineman. He died on June 20th. 1964 from injuries sustained from a fall after coming into contact with an 800-volt line atop a cable terminal pole near 87th and Capitol Street in Omaha. The work was part of restoration efforts from a storm that at the time was billed as the worst storm in OPPD's history, sustaining winds of over 95 miles an hour. He was only 34 years old, had 11 years with the district at the time of his death. And after his first year, Mr. Wood served a 4-year enlistment in the United States Navy before returning to OPPD as a groundman and helper. He was survived by his wife, Jean, his son, Bill, his mother, and 2 sisters. And I would just like to thank the board for giving me a little bit of liberty today. So, thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, we appreciate that.
Okay, this is the opportunity now, this is item number 19, opportunity for comments from any members of the public who are here who wish to comment on any district business.
Hey, I just want to give President Tim Burke a round of applause for what he said.
John Pollock, 1412 North 35th Street, Omaha. Weather. In the past few years, when we've had an El Nino, which is about the only thing that gives the long-range forecasters any handle on what's going to happen in the winter, the results haven't been too good. The weather patterns have not gone as expected for El Nino winters. It looked like we were starting out that way again this year with our cold, stormy fall. However, in the last couple of weeks, since our snowstorm, the storm track has split into two pieces, which is rather common for El Nino winters. The first piece goes along the Canadian border. The second piece goes through the southern plains. The result for us in the middle is that we have fewer Arctic outbreaks than usual. And right now I'll say that we ought to be having dry weather with above normal temperatures all the way through Christmas. After that, it's too far out to really tell. For about the last week, the models have been advertising major Arctic outbreak way out, 2 weeks out. They keep putting it off. It's okay with me if it keeps getting put off. The southern plains is having quite a strong storm system right now, and I mention that because we are part of the Southwest Power Pool, and a lot of it is in the southern plains, and those places are going to be subject to an unusually high frequency of storms, so our backup resources may be called upon more often than usual in the next few months. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Any other members of the public care to comment?
John Green, 5720 Mason Street. I'm in Mr. Moody's district. He's my representative, and I'm very proud of him. I came today not to bug you or to bother you, to lecture to you, though, Mr. Kavanaugh, you should have ruled me out of order over here because that was the cry of the rabble, and you aren't supposed to let that happen under parliamentary rules.
We're tuning you out like we did before.
You can do that. I'm here to thank the three directors who are finishing their terms. They didn't finish their terms in the manner in which they would have wanted, and elections are elections, and the elections have consequences, but that's not to diminish the contributions that each and every one of these three gentlemen made to this district. When Norris created this concept and the concept of the citizen director, he had the three of these men involved in mind. Each came from their own perspective and their own background, their own political persuasion, to put together a consensus among the people of the community to decide the manner in which that they would want their publicly owned utility to proceed, whether it is in a financial determination as to low-cost public power, in an environmental decision as we're moving closer and closer up the ladder to more and more renewable energy, which in my opinion you can't achieve 100% until such time as you resolve the storage problem. And once the storage problem is resolved, then you don't have to worry about the wind blowing all the time or the sun shining all the time or the plates surviving our hailstorms. As a citizen and as an observer of this utility, I wanted to thank the people that I watched go out on the storm. I was so pleased that I didn't receive one call. No one asked me to go to a designated center to receive telephone calls. I didn't get any texts. Nobody pounded on my front door demanding that their electricity be restored, and I wasn't being stalked by the press. So having been through that, and each one of you, I understand the work, the dedication you put in, the amount of time you're required to put in that people don't see and don't understand. They just see, oh, you go to 2 meetings a month. It's so much more than that, and your responsibilities are so much greater than that. And two of you have seen the end of our commitment to nuclear power in this district and the future savings that we will see from that. And while those were carbon-free footprints that we had, the benefit to the community from not having engaging in that in the future will be so monumental. But I briefly wanted to congratulate Tim Burke on his statement. Because having spent 30-some years here, not counting my 2 summers at North Omaha, And those were probably those 2 summers were the ones that made me appreciate the utility as much as I do, with working day by day with those people who worked out there and generated electricity at North Omaha, is that the dedication of the employees to this, and everyone knows that their job is dependent on the person next to them and the persons that they serve. And you see nothing but good things from the community of the people who work here, nothing but good things of the things that they do, whether it's within their job requirements or beyond their job requirements. And the service to this community and the value to this community of this utility over the last 70 years, since it was formed in 1946 or so, has just been monumental. And it's just the electric company. If it's on, we're happy. If it's not on, we're not happy. If it's expensive, we don't pay for it. We complain. If it's cheap, we use more. But the benefit to the community from the things that you do as directors, as senior managers, as the public, as our weatherman, is monumental. And it should be appreciated by every one of us on a daily basis, because while it's a commodity, it's a lifeline. And it keeps people alive, it keeps people entertained, it keeps people warm, it keeps people in light. And the duties that we have and the responsibilities that we have to the community are so great, and that what these people give back to them is so monumental, that I just wanted to take this moment to thank each and one of the 3 of you for what you have done for this utility. Thank you.
Thank you, Thanks, John.
Miss Green speeches, don't we?
Sometimes. Okay, we're adjourned.
You guys gotta take pictures.
In a meeting duly convened with the